This is Patrick David, and you're listening to Dynamic Lifestyle Podcast.
All right, guys, welcome back to another episode on the Dynamic Lifestyle Podcast. I'm so excited about this episode. I know Chris is excited. We have the one and only Patrick David with us. How you doing today?
I'm doing good, man. It's good to be with you guys.
Yeah, and man, this is awesome because I want people to really watch the YouTube version of this because your office is amazing. We walked in here, I was just blown away.
I appreciate that.
The painting is beautiful. Yeah. So you've done a great job.
Yes. It started off with a very. This actually wasn't an office. This was an open space. We put the wall. We put those windows. Now to kind of fix it to what it is today. But yeah, I like working here.
Yeah. Tell us a little bit about the Joker. You got the Hulk, and then you got Batman.
So it's a combination of my personalities. On any given day, any one of these guys could show up.
Really?
The Hulk could show up. Who he thinks so technical, but if you piss him off, he turns into this crazy guy. I try to keep him away at times. On any given day, I could be relating to Batman, and then Joker is definitely there as well on some certain.
Okay, let me ask you a question. Which one do you want to be maybe 90% of the time?
Optimus Prime, which is at the front,
okay.
but these guys are just there in my head, and they tend to kind of show up every once in a while.
Yeah. Kenya said that she doesn't want to see the Joker side.
No, she's seen some of the sides. Yeah, she's seen some of the sides, but not all the sides yet.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Well, within time it comes.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it's a sweet setup. I watch a lot of your YouTube videos and interviews, and they're amazing. And I always was wondering too where this Reed thing came from, which is really cool.
So Reed is obviously that's what changed my entire perspective about life. I read 1,500 books that changed the game for me, and I was in LA, Sun Valley. My dad had a friend of his that's a carpenter. I said, Dad, I want to make a bookshelf. That's the Reed bookshelf. So he brought this guy in. I told him how I wanted it to be. He said, do you want it to be wood? I said, no, because it's got to be able to handle heavy books. And then that's a very heavy bookshelf, by the way. If you touch it, it's actually metal. It's not regular, it's metal. So we worked on it. He wanted to turn it into a bit. That cost $3,500 to make.
Really?
That's $3,500 to make. And it's moved with me with every office I've been. So this is the 5th or 4th office that's been with me.
Yeah. Beautiful. Yeah.
Thank you.
Love it. Cool. Yeah. All right, Patrick, let's get into this. We like to kick our show off with rapid, dynamic questions so the listeners get a little better feel for you.
I love that.
You ready for that?
Sure.
All righty. So number one, have you ever been interviewed by twins, identical twins?
Never have. This is the first.
Okay.
But you said you dated identical
I
twins.
dated identical twins. They were Filipino. I was in the army. This is the time when I was dancing, and we had a great time together.
Got it.
They were very friendly.
Got it. So you said you're from LA.
Yep.
So we're from LA. There's a ton of billboards out there.
Yep.
If you had the opportunity to have a humongous billboard out in LA, what would the message be on there and why?
It would probably be, what would the message be? I don't think it would be a message. It would be for a movie coming soon.
Okay.
Movie coming soon.
Yeah.
Okay.
It'd be for a movie coming soon.
All right.
Personally, I see a lot of books. I know that you film a lot of videos. How are you consuming content these days? Audio, video, reading?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I got audio regularly when I'm on flights. I'm listening all the time. Reading is nonstop, although I probably consume more articles today than ever in my life. It's a complete different story where it used to be 100% books, more than audio. I'm more book, and I like the real hardcover or softcover. I don't like the whole Kindle. I do that as well, but I prefer the real books. But it's a ton of articles today. And it's changed because you go from a salesperson to a sales leader to a CEO. That's a small company, and then you build your company, and then you're creating content. And Valuetainment's gone from regular how-tos, then technical content, then interviews, then research. So it's completely changed with how the brand and the cycles of the business has changed.
Yeah, but how come articles though?
Articles because I have to kind of find out what's going on with Brexit, what's going on with oil, what's going on with the U.S.-China trade war, what's going on with the economy, what's going on with the insurance industry, what's going on with. I have to constantly. I'm in the financial industry, so I run an insurance company with 13,000 agents. 49 states, I have investors. I had a board meeting yesterday. I'm recruiting people all the time that are executives in the insurance business or the technology world. So I have to know exactly what's taking place when I sit with these guys. So I know their pressure points, their pain points, what they may be worried about. So it helps me negotiate and, build better relationship with my partners.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. Makes sense.
What's your number one go-to tip to create content today?
Listen to the questions people ask and listen to things you get stuck on. So for me, we'll have a conversation together. Somebody asks, Pat, how do you do this? And then how do you do this is a content. So then I grab a piece of paper and I write down how I do it, then we turn it into a piece of content. Like right now, you ask me, how do you create content? There's a video we have, how to create content. So why do we have a video, how to create content? Because so many people asked, how do you create content? How do you create company culture? So I made a 50-minute video on 24 steps on how to create a company culture. How do you sell? So anything that people ask on how to turns into content for me. Obviously, if it makes sense.
Yeah, gotcha.
Yeah, love it.
Finish the sentence. The world needs more of
Entrepreneurs.
entrepreneurs.
Oh yeah.
Want to elaborate on that?
Absolutely. The world, so you look at what's going on today with a couple different things. I'm not trying to get political with you. So you got a Jeff Bezos that tries to move his headquarters to New York, and he's going to offer 25,000 jobs at a minimum, at an average salary of $150,000, right? He's about to move there. Next thing you know, the politicians come out and they say, oh my gosh, this is not fair, he shouldn't come out. And the governor, who doesn't even like Bezos, says, what are you guys doing? Let him come over here. But he got so much heat for going there. So he says, you know what, no problem, I'll take these 25,000 jobs somewhere else. Apple decides to give $2.5 billion just this week to San Francisco to help with people that are struggling with real estate pricing. And they'll say, we give $1 billion to this account that will open up, that'll buy some homes to help people out. We'll give another $50 million to help out with charity. We'll give another $1 billion to this. We give another $100 million to this. And then you got a lot of the politicians that come out and says, look at these guys, it's all their fault, it's all this. So what this is doing is, when I was growing up going to school, my teachers didn't like rich people. Okay, my mom didn't like rich people. And the people around me didn't like rich people. And the people that didn't like rich people were poor people typically, right? So I said, why do you not like rich people? So I grew up not liking rich people. And then I started being around rich people. And I realized there's the good, there's the bad, there's the ugly. There's the ugly that take advantage of people and they abuse to take money out of them. There's a lot of online content creators that'll do anything to get your money. They're everywhere. By the way, good, bad people are everywhere. There's good pastors, bad pastors. There's good cops, bad cops. There's good politicians, bad. They're everywhere, right? But and then I realized when I started working, what happens when you produce more entrepreneurs? Entrepreneurs take risks with the savings that they have, and they put their salary on the line to create an opportunity, creating more jobs for other people, but they could lose it all. That could lead to them having anxiety attacks, panic attacks, a divorce, all of that stuff. So we have more entrepreneurs. Entrepreneurs are good at putting teams together, and the more entrepreneurs we produce that put teams together, the more problems we can solve. So for me, everything starts with the entrepreneur.
So now I want to segue into building an empire as an entrepreneur, because what you've built here is an empire. And I know you're not done. You're probably just getting warmed up. I see it in your eyes. You have that killer instinct. So what have you done from the start to now to really get to where you're at?
What have I done? Meaning, how have I done it?
How have you done it?
Oh,
Yes.
okay, yeah. So I think the biggest thing for me was early on, I shadowed a lot of the good people in my life. I had a guy I shadowed that was in sales for me. His name was Brian. His name was Francisco Davis. He was at Bally's. I watched him closely. Another guy named Dexter. Dexter had the charm. Cisco was not the guy with the muscle, yet he would sell more memberships than anybody else because he was very good with people. He was a good listener. He asked the right questions. And I worked with a guy named Brian who was incredible at driving. He was a tough guy. He wasn't a soft. He would push you around, and he wasn't afraid. He was 5'4", but he walked around like he owned the place. And when we were together, he was the alpha. I was the guy that was, what do you want me to do? How do I respond to the next challenge you give me? He taught me a lot about driving people. And then I got into sales. I worked with several other people. A John, who was great at building relationships, used humor. I saw a girl named Jamie who was phenomenal at what she did with Systematic, and she stuck to the fundamentals. And then I shadowed a lot of other people in my career that I watched closely. A guy named John Morris, who was running a Vistage. And this Vistage group that he was running, he is sitting down with all these different CEOs, and he would solve their problems, and he would make them think, and I watched how he handled it. But I shadowed a lot. That's number one. Number two, I studied a lot of people who did things wrong, not what they did right. Let me explain what I mean by this. And this is going to sound funny, but I remember a guy named Joe. I kept being compared to a guy named Joe. And everybody said, Pat, you're coming up like Joe. You know, Joe was doing so good. And I said, Joe who? And they said, this Joe. And they wouldn't give me the last name of who this Joe was. But he was a superstar in the 90s, early to mid 90s. And I said, man, you're just like this guy. And I said, if Joe is so good, how come he's not at the top today? So he said, well, nobody would tell me the story. And so this entire time, I'm worried about being Joe, because I'm going to work my butt off, and one day I'm going to be a Joe who's only making 80 grand a year now. And at one point he was killing it in the insurance business. So one day I go up to Joe and I say, Joe, I got a question for you. This is gonna be kind of awkward. And I hope you're willing to entertain this, but if you don't, I totally understand it. I said, everybody compares me to the 90s Joe. But today's Joe, no one is looking at the numbers because nothing is impressive that's happening today. What happened that changed the 90s Joe to the Joe today? He said, that's a fair question. And the guy was so kind where he sat down and gave me an hour message of exactly the mistakes he made. That was life-changing. So the moment I was about to make the mistake Joe made, I didn't make it. So I always look for guys that were about, either they had a fall, or they saw somebody they worked closely with that fell. What caused this guy to fall? I want to know those stories. Because the keys to success, you know, the most generic question people ask is what are the keys to success? What is this? What is that? We know the keys to success. The books are over there. You read 100 of these books, eventually you know they're saying the same thing. Right. Read books, associate with the right people, work hard, all this other stuff, right? Now some of them are going to give you some things in a different way. You gain some good stories because hopefully it inspires you. But for me, it was about figuring what mistakes that I'm about to make, because this entire game of business is anticipation. If you can anticipate your next 5, 10 enemies or things that you're going to face and come out with a strategy to go through that problem that you're going to anticipate, then you're in a good place. But if you don't anticipate, you're going to hit a wall.
Yeah.
So that was one of the biggest factors for me, was seeing what were the keys to failure,
Yeah.
more than the keys to success.
Yeah. And that brings me to another question I wanted to ask. I think it was on Bedros' podcast or Ty Lopez, but you said something that always caught my attention, where it's like, you said people that have gone through failures or tragic experiences have a different pair of a lens than people that just have a bunch of success and wins. Can you explain that?
Yeah, absolutely, because your skin is thicker. You know, yesterday I had Teddy Atlas here. Teddy Atlas is the trainer, the famous boxing trainer. I don't know if you know who Teddy Atlas is, and he trained Tyson. He knew the Tyson when he was 14, 15 years old. Teddy Atlas was trained by Customata, the legendary Customata, which Tyson, you know, Ali, all these guys, and Customata was a whole different story. And Teddy Atlas came here because he responded to Sammy the Bull Gravano. And I had Sammy the Bull Gravano interview that I did a couple months ago. Sammy the Bull called out Teddy Atlas. Teddy Atlas came over here. So we sat down yesterday. I said, Teddy, so let me ask you a question. I said, your dad, you grew up with a dad was a doctor, a legendary doctor in New York, in Staten Island. You lived in a beautiful home. Your mom was a, you know, Miss USA pageant. Why did you go become a gangster? Why did you go in the streets? Why did you cause so much havoc where you went to Rikers Island and you went to prison and he got 400 stitches on the side of his face? If you've seen the face, it's got 400 stitches, 200 on the inside, 200 on the outside. So what caused you to do that? Because you were raised in a good family. He says, you know, everybody's got a different story. I said, so what's your story? He says, for me, I never saw my dad. My dad never said, I love you. My dad wasn't around. He loves his dad. He started a charity after his dad's name. But he said he wasn't around. So one day I realized that my dad gave more attention to those people who were in pain, because if he was doing a surgery with you, he wouldn't leave you until you were good. Even if he knows it's my birthday, whatever, he would stay with the person with pain. So the way I was able to get my dad's attention is by me being in pain. So I wanted to be a patient so he would give me love. What an emotional story to say, right? I'm sitting and looking at this guy like, hold on. I mean, I'm emotional listening to his story. He's got tears in his eyes. And then you all of a sudden get his perspective. And he said, okay, I got this part. So what did I do to him? Okay, he went through tough times. He grew up in Staten Island, where his Paul Castellano, he had the White House there. He was running one of the La Cosa Nostra families. And he's grown up around these gangsters and all these guys that's coming up. And there's Mickey Mantle and all these baseball, all these guys that are coming up in New York. And then he gets introduced to boxing through fighting. And then he meets Customata, and he becomes this tough guy in the gym where he knows how to push the young guys around. You're late to practice today, to training, go home, you can't come to the gym today, maybe you show up tomorrow on time. And he becomes a tough guy to everybody. And next thing you know, he starts reading people. He starts reading people's fears. He starts telling if this guy's got willpower or not. He can tell whether you can go in the ring and take the hit, whether you're fighting from fear, or whether you're handling it or not, whether you're lying to him, or he starts reading all these guys. Yeah. So what if he doesn't go through that experience? Then he's not Customata, then he's not Teddy Atlas. So you look at a lot of this stuff, and sometimes you look at people who grew up in families that's normal, and they end up becoming normal people because it's just a normal, safe life.
Yeah.
you need a little bit of drama. You need a little bit of something to happen. You need a heartbreak, man. You need to, unfortunately, a loss of a loved one, a setback, a humiliating loss, something that completely crushes you, and then you go straight to the bottom. And then if you can, it's like a triad, it's like Hell Week. You know how you play football and you go through Hell Week? You hit rock bottom, and if you can come out of that rock bottom, then the world finds out about who you are.
Yeah,
but you got to go there first. It's so funny it happens. I don't know why it's like that, but it is what it is.
Yeah. And hey guys, thanks so much for watching this past video. If you guys are interested in more videos like this and want to learn more about our podcast, the Dynamic Lifestyle Podcast, then make sure to check the link in the description box, as we've really grown this podcast over the couple of years, have had some really big experts and big names on this podcast, and are looking to grow it further, and it's nothing but knowledge for you guys. So make sure to click the link in the description box and check out our podcast and other episodes. Exactly why I want to ask that. We lost our father at 18. So right there, senior year of high school, 3 nights before Christmas, but we went through hell for 6 years. But that really hit me when you said that, because I feel like we have a different pair of lens than other people. And so the follow-up question I would ask is, what was like that like experience or gangster moment or something you went through that really gave you that pair of lens or like thick skin?
Living in Iran, being bombed on, you know, the war between Iran and Iraq, and listening to that whistling sound that I hear till today, that, you know, seeing my dad when we're getting bombed and he's trying to hold it together under the stairs because it's the safest place to be. And we move from city to city to city, and then moving to Germany. In Germany, here's a kid living at a refugee camp who's from Iran, and everybody is Polish, all these other places, and they don't trust Iranians because there's a war going on between Iran and Iraq. So there's that skepticism with, can I really trust you and your family? So you have to kind of figure out a way to understand people much better. And then coming to U.S. not speaking a language, high school, going through it, going in the military, you know, being embarrassed for parents divorced, Middle Eastern, Patrick's not going to amount to be anything. So at a young age, I have a 1.8 GPA, I'm working at Burger King, you know, all of this stuff combined together, right? Then I go into the Army, and in the Army, I'm having challenging times the first couple months connecting. They asked me to leave the Army because they said, hey, maybe this thing isn't for you because you can't handle it. You get into way too many fights. You can't get along with people. You got to get out of the Army. This isn't for you. And then one day I'm sitting there with my bunk buddy, Wiggins, and I said, listen, man, I got to figure something out. And that day I came back. They said, you can make a phone call to all your friends to go back home. And I came back. They said, look, we won't give you a dishonorable discharge. We'll just give you a less than honorable discharge, which means you weren't, you know, you just came, it didn't work out, you left, it's all good, right? You didn't get fired. So I came the next day, I said, no, I'm not leaving, I'm going to stay here. And my drill sergeant said, you sure you want to do this? I said, absolutely. That drill sergeant gave me hell the next 8 weeks to get out, and it was probably the best thing that ever happened to me. So it's one or two things, and then having some relatives that were extremely difficult relatives, some that have bipolar tendencies and all this other stuff. So you watch reaction where you kind of are waiting for that person. Who's it going to be today? Is it going to be this personality, that personality, this personality, kind of watching them. All of that stuff combined together kind of gives you some perspective. Then your lens on how you view the world completely changes. Completely changes. But if you learn to use the lens to your advantage, you have an edge over the marketplace.
Yeah.
If you look at it as a crutch, guess what? It's going to be a crutch.
Right. Yeah.
So
Absolutely. I want to shift a little bit towards family and entrepreneurism, right? You said the world needs more entrepreneurs, but it could possibly cause a lot of anxiety, which I know that could cause divorces, breakups, a lot of issues. So how do you balance that out? Like, how do you leave this office every day and take off that armor and go home to your kids, your family, and shut off one of these characters? How do you do that? And what do you recommend for somebody else?
I'll give you a perfect idea what happened today. You know, today I get told by my wife this week that there's something called a nature walk. Okay, I mean, you'll never see me going on a nature walk. It's not my personality. Like you once said, I was at Patrick's office today. He was going for a nature walk before the interview, and we had an interview with him. That's just not going to happen. But if it's with my 3-year-old daughter, I will go on a nature walk. It doesn't matter what it is. So I went this morning, and she saw my face. I don't know if you guys saw the Instagram post when I got the video on her, and I zoomed in close on her face. She's just kind of looking around, seeing where everybody's at, and then she zoomed into me. And then her smile changed. Oh my gosh. I mean, put all the best drugs in the world together. I'm not going to get a high like this. This is the natural high of life. But, you know, it's crazy. We were not expecting to have the third baby. We were not ready to have a second one. We planned for the first one, but not the other ones. And they kind of happened at a time that we probably couldn't do it because we were running a company with a lot of turmoil with our own money. I was about to run out of money. and we had a baby, and all these things are taking place. We're moving to Texas, all this stuff going on. But a big part of this journey and this route that I took, I told my wife, you married a guy that's not a 9-to-5 guy. If you want a 9-to-5 guy, this isn't the guy. I'm telling you right here up front. But you support me, we do this together, I'm gonna give you the world. And if you wanna be involved with me, guess what, you're here. You can run your own department, do whatever you wanna do, I'll give you your own space. You're not gonna have to worry about any of that stuff, but you wanna stay home, you can do that as well. The choice is yours. She's on the other side of the finance department.
Okay.
She right now is running my technology that we invested a few $1 million in. She's the main leader running that technology that we invested in. But we talked about that. We just had lunch today and we're speaking. I was telling her the decision that I'm getting ready to make. I said, babe, I am so resolved with this decision, I'm not even looking back. And she started crying. I said, why are you crying, baby? She says, because I've seen how committed you were to this, and for you to be this resolved with this decision, I feel your pain. Because everything you did with this, you were so emotionally attached to it, which is why I did so well. I'm like, my wife is crying. We're sitting and having a regular conversation at a sushi joint right now, like literally 4 hours ago, 3.5 hours ago, right? So you gotta realize, man, life is very weird, man. Marriage is not easy. Raising kids is not easy. This whole thing you want to do with life, it's very complex. It's a lot of issues. It's a lot of surprises. It's a lot of curveballs. But if you decide to, so let's just say I do the opposite. Let's say I aspire to do this. It's so much in my belly where you're looking at my eyes and you're saying, I can tell in your eyes that you want to take over the world, right? Okay. So for me, now imagine if I say, no, I'm not going to do this because I don't want to be away and I'm just going to have to play the 9-to-5 and I want to be this guy because I want to make sure this doesn't happen. Fast forward past 50 years old. Deep down inside, it's inside my belly that I've been wanting to do this my entire life. Slowly but surely, I'm going to have resentment towards my wife.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Slowly but surely, I'm going to look at her saying, you did it.
Of course.
You took this away from me. Slowly but surely, I'm going to resent my kids. Slowly but surely, all of those same reasons why I wanted to win for, that I sacrificed my dreams to be more around them, those are the same people I start slowly but surely having resentment for.
Yeah.
But it's none of their fault. It's if you really want to pursue that life that you want to build, you got to go after it. And hoping that your family supports it.
Absolutely.
But there's a very high likelihood they're not going to support it. There's a thing I talk about where over the years I've worked with a lot of different guys and I watch a lot of people in the business, right? And I'm going with them. And one of my first things, anybody I do business with, my number one filter on anybody I do business with, it's to the point that I added it to my business filter on any salesperson I work with. My step number one of working with you and committing to working with you and developing a new sales leader, you know what my step number one is? I got to meet your spouse. So you got a fiance. If you were to work with me, my step number one before you and I work in together is I got to meet her. So I go to dinner with you and her. Within 30 minutes, I'm going to know who she is. Then I'm going to say, I can't work with this guy. Why not? Because no matter what I tell you, you're going to go home and sleep next to her at night. So you could tell her, wow, babe, let me tell you, man, you know, Patrick really pushed me today and he was challenging me to make these calls and to do this and to do that. And she says, I told you, he seemed like that kind of a guy. He reminds me of my dad and da-da-da-da-da. You're done. You're toast. Now you go home. And she says, so what, babe? He wants the best for you. Are you kidding me? You're not going to find a guy like that. Go back and do it. Look at where he's at right now. What if we commit to this guy? I like him. I trust his wife. I trust their family. Babe, we could one day have their life. You're now on fire going to sleep. Your spirit's like lit up. You're like, oh my gosh, this is awesome, right? You can't wait to come back the next day. And I will know the next day you come back to the office, I'll look at your eyes. This guy's got to keep it. And then I meet your girl and I say, how you doing, Mary? Good to see you.
That's powerful.
The point is the last appointment of the day will dictate whether you're going to be big time or not. And you got to choose your last appointment of the day properly, because a lot of people don't. So critical.
Yeah.
Man, jeez. Whew, I tell you to drop these mics, but they're pretty expensive. That was fire, though. So that brings me to asking about your relentless pursuit, right? So what brings out that killer instinct and that relentless side of you? Because the analogy I like to use is Michael Jordan, right? This guy was Hall of Famer, best basketball player in my opinion. Fourth quarter comes, he turns on that killer instinct, this relentless side that nobody can stop and only he can turn on, turn off. What brings out that relentless and killer instinct side of you?
So you know, it's funny you say that. One day I read a quote. So I have 3 different vision boards that I created. Okay, and this is the time where I really spent some time on these 3 vision boards. I've made smaller vision boards since I was 21 years old, but at 27, 28 years old, I really spent time on my vision boards. It was about 14 hours I spent on these 3 vision boards. I went, I bought like 40, 50 magazines and books, I brought them in. One vision board was the top performers of all time. One vision board was my dreams, my house, what it was going to look like, all these accolades, all these things that I wanted my life to look like. The other one was mind and thinkers and leaders, quotes and things they said. So performers, like I would have pictured eyes of Michael Jordan, or Willie Mays catching the ball, or Cat, certain people, Spitz, Mark Spitz running, breaking a record, I had all these guys on there. So I looked at it and I'm cutting this magazine and I'm getting all these quotes of philosophy, and then all of a sudden I find a quote. And the quote said, if a lion could speak, we could not understand him. If a lion could speak, we could not understand him. Why? What is this guy saying? If a lion could speak, we could not understand him. Why do lions have that presence? Why are lions criticized, condemned, hated, envied? Why do lions attract so many people that, oppose them? Why are they that way? But at the same time, why do lions attract so many believers? Why are so many people fully devout followers of certain lions? What causes that? Where do you get that? Do I go and buy it on aisle 7 at Walmart and I take this medicine and I get a lion heart or lion tendency? No. So when I read that quote, I was at a very interesting phase of my life, and I'll explain to what phase I was at. I was at a phase where I am winning, but I'm losing some old friends who are saying it's too much. You're losing you. It's too much. It's not really worth it. Come back here. We miss you. We miss the old path. Everything was about I miss the old path, right? And in my mind, I'm saying, you have no idea what I've just figured out about life. I've tapped into a certain energy within myself that I feel like I can really go fulfill this. I got a vision right now. I know exactly what I want to do. I know my next 100 moves on what I want to do. This is when I was 29 years old, 28 years old. 28, 29 is a very confusing age for men because you're getting ready to go into 30. You're asking yourself, am I on track? I'm behind. Johnny's doing better. I still don't have a kid. That person's married with kids and I don't even have a girl yet. And what about this? It can really mess with your head right in that moment. 28, 29 for men especially. So then one day it clicked. Pat, guess what? You're a lion. It's okay. You're a lion. Nothing to worry about. Stop trying to be what you're not. You're a lion. Go be the person that you are. And then I did. And then I broke a lot of things. And then all of a sudden, certain people are like, wait a minute, I don't like the way you're doing certain things. But the character was in the right place. Values and principles were in the right place. I'm not willing to compromise certain values and principles or my non-negotiables for it to happen. I just said, I'm going to apply these principles. And the vision got clear, the heart got clear, the self-acceptance or the self-confidence in the direction I was going got clear. And then from there I said, you know what? I have no desire to live any other life. This has to become a reality. Yeah. And I made a list of things I know I couldn't do. I knew a long time ago, like I wanted to be Mr. Olympia. That was one of my dreams. This is why I do these bodybuilding interviews. And people are like, why is Patrick interviewing Mr. Olympia? It's because I wanted to be Mr. Olympia. Yeah. It was like one of the things. But one day I partied with Chris Cormier. We were at Century Club. You know Century Club, right outside of Culver City. It used to be hot like 20 years ago. So I'm at Century Club and everybody's there, him, Aaron Baker, all these guys. And I start getting kind of closer. I start realizing what I need to do to my body to compete. And then I went and studied bodybuilders. The tallest guy that won Mr. Olympia was 6'2½", which is Arnold. Ever since then, the right height is 5'10", and to build it, I have to be 400 pounds off season. I just said, that's not what I want to do. So I shifted. So very quickly, I eliminated everything that I can't do at the highest level. And if I cannot do it at the highest level, I have no interest for it. Yeah. So if I can't compete at this level, I don't want to even compete in that area. Yeah. I want to go for this. So once I did that, instead of wanting to do 17 different things, it became 4 different things. It became 2 different things. Then it went up, rather than trying to be so good at all these other things. So once those things came together, the rest is history, obviously.
Right. And how long have you been an entrepreneur for?
I started my small business when I was 10 years old in Germany, collecting beer bottles at a local pool to buy a Super Nintendo to impress a Czechoslovakian girl named Katarina Staff. So that's how it all got started.
Okay. What's the top 2 lessons that you've learned being an entrepreneur?
One, you can figure out a way. I go back in the days, when you go through biblical times. If you have to figure out a way to feed your kids, guess what? You're going to do it. If you have to figure out a way to put a roof over your head, you're going to do it. Today we're walking out, everybody's like, oh my gosh, it's so cold, it's freezing. And I'm sitting there for a moment, I'm like, it's crazy. Say 800 years ago, 1,000 years ago, say 1,500 years ago. How are we going to stay warm? How do you, a beanie, a jacket, all these things. This guy's like, here, shake this up, put it in your hands, it'll keep your hands warm. I'm like, we didn't have this stuff back in the days. So we're survivors, man. We know how to survive. If you look at it and know that you're going to figure out a way, you'll figure out a way. That's one. And the second thing is putting the right team together. I think you put a right team together. It's, again, putting a right team together is a reflection of you and how your intuition is of people. Who you marry is a reflection of you and your intuition of the people. Who your friends are, who you invest with, who your partners are, everything. So for me, like right now, we are looking at 3 other guys that we're trying to recruit. One of them I'm bringing in town this week. One of them was here yesterday. And the other guy I met with 2 days ago, that's a very, very successful guy. My entire intention when I'm meeting with these guys is to recruit them.
Yeah.
So I'm looking for a team. Okay, and in every area of my life, I'm putting a team together. Every area. So one is knowing that you can figure out a way to get it done. Number 2 is putting the right team together.
Love that.
What's a normal day in the life look like for you? Like, let's say from morning to midday.
Kenny, what time do I get in? What time am I here?
7:30.
7:30. I'm here. Latest 7:30. You'll see me here.
Oh,
Office.
at night?
No, in the morning.
In the morning. Yeah.
What time am I out of here?
9 o'clock.
That's every day, by the way.
Yeah.
What time do you wake up?
I'm a 4 to 6 hour guy. I go to sleep at 1 o'clock in the morning. I wake up 5, 6 o'clock in the morning, and then I'm off to the races. So for me, I get my 7 hours of sleep on Saturday nights. I can't get 8 hours of sleep because my kids come lay next to me at 6 o'clock, and 6:30 Patrick comes lays next to me, and you have to wake up, right? Because you got kids now. And then every quarter, I get a night of 8 hours of sleep. I'm talking real 8 hours of sleep. Now, this is contradictory to what a lot of people tell you. It's very contradictory to what a lot of people tell you. I will tell you on Sundays, it's family time. No matter what happens, Sundays are my family time.
Nice.
What the wife and the kids want to do, we go do it together.
I love it.
And then from 7:30 to 9, though, it's all just straight work?
Non-stop.
Non-stop?
Oh, Kenya, you've been here now for how long? 6 months? How non-stop is it?
Back to back.
She was
We
telling
have
us.
something
Oh, she's
right
telling
after
you.
this.
There you go. It's literally non-stop.
Jeez.
Yeah, it's literally non-stop.
Yeah. Patrick, we're coming to the end to this interview. This has been awesome. I could literally, if I could, I would extend this to like 2-3 hours. Just everything you're saying, I'm soaking it up like a sponge. So before I ask the last question, I want to take a moment to acknowledge you, just for taking time out of your busy schedule. We flew in from LA. This is awesome coming to this amazing establishment that you've built. Everything that you're doing, just putting out to the world with Valuetainment. Has changed my perspective as an entrepreneur. It's going to inspire so many other people. So I just want to say thank you, just face to face.
Anytime.
Yeah, and then just to throw my 2 cents in there, that's why we got you the bracelet, Relentless, because that's the first thing that comes to mind, man, is just like your relentless pursuit in life as an entrepreneur, and it's inspiring. You just keep doing these things to help other people out.
I appreciate that.
Yeah. So the last question is, what does it mean to you to live a dynamic lifestyle?
What does it mean to me to live a dynamic lifestyle? I can't see myself living any other life. I just cannot. So a dynamic lifestyle to me means that I chose this route. I am willing to risk anticipating the surprises that are going to come next, some good, some bad, some ugly. But I'm willing to go through it, and I feel confident to know that every time I come across something new, I will regroup and put new strategies together to be able to face that next challenge head on and take it to the next level. But if somebody's watching this, the one thing I do want people to take away when they're watching something like this is you got to realize this, man. We really sometimes forget we have one life. And today, as much as this is a great tool to make a lot of money and connect with a lot of people, and we're here right now because of this. You take this out, we're probably not here today, right? Social media. And if there's no social media, there is no Valuetainment Patrick Bay David, because there's no YouTube, I'm just an insurance guy. You would have to read about me in paper 30 years ago. I'm not going to be Hey, oh my gosh, I walked into the hallway, oh my gosh, it's Patrick, how I want you. All of that stuff would be gone. But it's important for the listener that's watching this to realize, look, there's a lot of people telling you to live a different way. A lot of people. Sometimes the biggest challenge is like, how do you decipher through all this information? One influencer is telling you, don't worry about it, you got plenty of time, it's okay. You're fine, you're eventually gonna figure it out. Another influencer is telling you, hurry up, go, figure it out, right? Your job is to try to come up with your own set of philosophies that you're crystal clear on, and you may make a few adjustments here and there, but once you have a certain set of philosophies that produces results, like, you know, when people ask me, they say, well, Pat, you know, no, I'm gonna say no to what you have to offer. I said, listen, fair, you can say no to what I have to offer, but can I challenge you on something? Sure, what is it? Your way of thinking has gotten you to where you are right now financially. Yes? Are you happy with your way of thinking? Are you happy with the results it's gotten you today? No. So maybe your way of thinking needs to change, right? So if you come up with a set of philosophies that is producing the results that you want, guess what? Keep doing it. But if it hasn't, seek getting clear philosophies on life for yourself. Marriage, relationship, kids, friendship, finance, business, peace, spiritual, exercise, everything. Just try, you know, the key is to just come up with philosophy like, oh, here's what I got. Here's what I'm going to be doing. But the one life that you have on what you want to live, don't let all the noise be so loud that it immobilizes you. Unfortunately, sometimes all this content is also not good because it's getting you to question which one to believe and which one to do.
Exactly.
You know, pick a way and go with it.
Yeah.
Choose a route and go with it. One of the things I always talk about is the fact that choose one industry, man. Choose one industry. Stop going to 50. So when I got into the insurance industry, financial industry, I went to the financial industry, got my old licenses, and I started selling security stocks, bonds, and then all of a sudden within that, I found insurance, and I said, okay, guess what? I'm gonna go 20 years. One of the biggest advantages I have over my peers is that I said in 2001, the day before 9/11, I'm gonna go 20 years. And guess what? My 20 years is coming out. But during that time, I saw so many people gonna say, I'm gonna go 20 years. 6 months later, real estate. 7 months later, pharmaceutical sales. 5 months later, digital marketing. 8 months later, such a. 9 months later, they're starting a gym. 17 months, and then they change. Listen, no matter what you go to, everything's gonna be challenging. Everything's gonna be ugly. Figure out one way, get clear on your philosophies, try to kind of lower the noise from everybody you're here. Maybe only listen to a couple things you got and get clear on it, and then from there, go apply. You apply. One day you're gonna wake up, you're gonna say, it's crazy, it's my life. And that can happen to anybody. Anybody.
Wow.
So I hope that message resonates with the listener, that this is not about PBD or Valuetainment. This is about the person that realizes you got one life, get clear on your philosophies, choose a route, get clear on it, commit to it, give 10 or 20 years, and watch magic happen.
Damn. Awesome.
Good.
Where can our listeners support you on right now? Where can they follow you?
I mean, you go on YouTube, you type in entrepreneur, you'll see me everywhere. Valuetainment will be the YouTube channel. But I got a couple things that's coming up. One, we were in the other room right now because the sales course is about to go live. The sales course is what a lot of people have been asking about. I got a 3-day vault conference that I do once a year. Last year, 2019, we did it in Dallas. This next year, 2020 vault conference will be at the Diplomat in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, right outside of Miami, which we rented out the entire place. 4,000 people are going to show up to this place. And if anybody wants to go to a conference in 2020 where you roll up your sleeves and by the time it's done, it's not going to be a pitch fest where every other speaker is selling you their $20,000 program. You come for 3 days, there's no selling. I tell you at the beginning, the only time I'm going to sell you is at the end of the event. I'm going to tell you if you want to go next year. That's all it is. And it's a very soft, it's not like here's what you got to, no. 3 days content, we go. You figure out your 15 moves by the time we're done. And whether you're a startup founder, C-suite executive, CEO, salesperson, by the time we're done, you know exactly what your individual 15 moves are in the right sequence, leaving the big event. And that's the Vault Conference coming 2020 in July. So if anybody wants to know more about it, you can go to patrickbaydavid.com or send us a message on Instagram, and we'll get the info over to you.
Awesome. We'll have all that linked up in the show notes.
I love that.
Guys, go follow Patrick Bet-David. Patrick, thank you so much
Hey
for your
man,
time.
appreciate you guys for coming. I
Thank
really
you so
enjoyed it.
much.
You guys are
Thank you.
awesome.
Thank you.
This was a blast.
Until next one, guys. Hey guys, thanks so much for watching this past video. If you guys are interested in more videos like this and want to learn more about our podcast, the Dynamic Lifestyle Podcast, then make sure to check the link in the description box, as we've really grown this podcast over the couple of years, have had some really big experts and big names on this podcast and are looking to grow it further, and it's nothing but knowledge for you guys. So make sure to click the link in the description box and check out our podcast and other episodes.